It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Welcome to a very special on-the-road edition of Rico Brogna. We talk about the New York Mets losing back-to-back games to the Houston Astros, and I have to be perfectly honest with you. I was in the building Friday night. It was freaking awesome. I took my oldest son, Jet, to the game. The Mets had another really feel-good victory in which the offense continues to click. They're whipping ass. Then we get the OMG show. We get fireworks. We're above 500, and we're at the top of the world. And something happened over the next 12 hours, if we can all be honest. I started fighting with people. I started arguing with some friends of mine who said, what's wrong with the New York Mets? How can you guys be partying and celebrating and having a concert when you're one game above 500? And I got very defensive. I did. I said, why can't we have fun? Like, why can't the New York Mets and us as Met fans just enjoy ourselves? Like, why does them celebrating or singing or dancing have to be a negative? And as I was fighting with a few of my friends, all of which non-Met fans, by the way, though I did get an email from Negative Dan, which we'll get to in the Rico B email, in which he did poke some alarm bells off of the partying that occurred Friday night, which we will address. But as I was arguing with a few of my friends who are Yankee fans, who are non-Met fans, I started having this queasy feeling of two things. Number one, the Mets are bound to cool off. You know, we've talked about that for a while. I mean, as well as they've played over the last 4 weeks, you're never as hot as you are when you're hot. You're never as bad as you are when you're bad. We've certainly seen a lot of that this baseball season. So, number one, they're due to cool off. And then number two, I just had this vibe that after sitting there for way too much time arguing with people, defending the right for the Mets to celebrate and sing and dance to OMG, that they're going to face a losing streak. And then this will be blamed. The reason for the Mets beginning to struggle will be blamed on what happened on Friday night. This started to hit me early on Saturday. Now, little did I know that on Saturday the Mets would put together a huge lead, 6-1. I'm feeling good. Like, screw it. This OMG party can't ruin anything. And then we saw the first example of the Mets losing a game with the effect of not having Edwin Diaz. Doesn't mean Edwin Diaz would have dominated. It means everyone moves up one spot. And when everyone moves up one spot, you saw what happened on Saturday. And we'll get into more details about that game. But that was my worry. My worry after Friday, as great as it was, and it was a wonderful victory. And the atmosphere at Citi Field was amazing. I was glad I was there. And I never had an issue with them singing and dancing the OMG before the fireworks show. But I started to get that pit in my stomach Saturday afternoon. This is going to now be used as the reason why the Mets cooled off. It reminds me of 2 years ago. I had no issue. I'll say it again for anyone who still disagrees. I had no issue with Timmy Trumpet being at Citi Field for the Dodgers series. I didn't think it was the Mets celebrating like they won the World Series. I thought it was fine. Like, the trumpet song had become one of the big parts of the 2022 season, one of the big parts of Edwin Diaz's success. And if they wanted to have Timmy Trumpet there to perform live, like, it's not a big deal. And as we remember, after that Dodgers series, that was really the high water mark of the season, because the Mets then began to really struggle through the month of September, or at least be mediocre in the month of September against teams that they were supposed to crush. They struggled against them. They were fortunate to even get to that Atlanta series being up a game the way they were, being up 2 games. I guess they were up 2 games going into that 3-game series. They were fortunate. And then we all know what happened in the Atlanta series, the San Diego series, blah, 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 blah. But the Timmy Trumpet, Edwin Diaz celebration was oddly blamed as something that derailed the Mets season, which I still don't believe. So it's not that I believe the OMG singing and dance party led to the Mets losing these 2 games to the Houston Astros, but it was a little bit of deja vu. And I started to have a pit in my stomach. But if we're being honest, there's a lot of reasons why the Mets lost these last 2 games. The biggest is their bullpen. That's the biggest. And you go back to the beginning of this season when we kind of formulated how this team would be good, how this team would be competitive. they were going to have to score a lot of runs, which they have been doing, which they have sort of been doing. I mean, Saturday they scored 6 runs in the first 3 innings. They didn't do anything after that. On Sunday's game, they had a great opportunity to win the game in the 10th inning. They didn't, and they didn't do much in the latter innings of that game. But for the most part, this offense has clicked, and this bullpen has been a big problem. This bullpen needs to be a strength. And right now, not only are they down their closer, which forces everyone up a spot, this bullpen's not good enough. That's the bottom line. Bullpen's not good enough. When you are asking a guy like Matt Festa to come up to the major leagues and get big outs in the 11th inning, you're in trouble. And so when you look at these last 2 games, it really does come down to the bullpen. Let's go to Saturday's game. I mean, I guess we could talk about Friday's game. I mean, it was a nice victory. It was enjoyable. Jose Quintana did not give them innings, and the Met bullpen did do for the most part, pretty good job of getting the last 5 innings, which I think contributes to Saturday and Sunday. Like when you need to get 5 innings out of your bullpen, which is what they needed on Friday, getting the inning out of Ottavino, the 2 out of Dednell Nunez, the inning out of Diekman, the inning out of Reed Garrett, all of a sudden, you don't really have that much left. I mean, Dednell Nunez wasn't going to be available on Saturday and Sunday. So in a weird way, you can blame some of the struggles that the Met bullpen had on Saturday and Sunday on Jose Quintana, because there's been a problem all year with this guy. He threw 93 pitches in 4 innings. He gives up a leadoff hit in the 5th inning. And I don't even blame Mendy for doing it. He's got no other choice. He's got to go to the bullpen. The thing I will criticize Mendoza for on Friday that led to Saturday and Sunday, because it's all connected when you have a short bullpen, is I thought after the Mets added the tack-on run in the 8th inning, and they had opened up at that point a 7-2 lead, I thought, can you get away with not using Reed Garrett? Can you get away with going to, let's say, Adcock, who ended up pitching on Saturday, to get the last 3 outs on Friday? And if he gets into trouble, okay, fine, go to Reed Garrett. So, and by the way, I admit it's a minor criticism, but I think when you're dealing with a short bullpen, which the Mets are dealing with, and you're Carlos Mendoza, and you have a 5-run lead on Friday, and even though the Mets have a rested bullpen, you have to look ahead. You have to know, hey, we're playing Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's no off day until the All-Star break. Do you try to steal outs? Maybe steal an inning from a reliever that's not one of your top relievers, thinking ahead to the following day. Minor critique. But I do think that the win on Friday, and it's not the OMG song and the singing and the performing, contributed to what happened on Saturday and Sunday. You need more than 4 innings out of your starting pitcher. And that's all they got on Friday. Now, Friday was awesome because we saw Jeff McNeil wake up. He was given that gifted little pop-up to shortstop, which apparently was on Apple TV Plus with Jeremy Pena mic'd up, which I had to go back and watch after I was told about it. That's awkward. That's the best part about miking up players, to see a situation like that. But McNeil gets a gift hit, immediately gets caught stealing, and you heard the groans from the Citi Field crowd reacting to Jeff. But when Jeff McNeil hit the 3-run home run in the 6th inning, which was really set up by the bad error by Alex Bregman, that's the moment that really made you say, holy crap. I mean, wow, we are special. The Mets had just taken the lead. Pete Alonso hit the home run on the 0-2 pitch, which was great to see. And so it's still a close game. And knowing the Met bullpen is going to have to get the final 9 outs of the game, Jeff McNeil's 3-run home run in the 6th inning was a huge moment. It was a moment of, hey, maybe Jeff can wake up. Not that any of us actually believe that. But B, giving this bullpen a cushion by making that a huge inning and turning a 1-run lead into a 4-run lead. That may have been the best part of the night, seeing Jeff McNeil rip one down the right field line and having it get out. But it was just another really solid all-around performance by this offense. Pete Alonso hitting his 17th home run. Tyrone Taylor, who's done a great job playing right field since Marte goes out, he hits the home run that actually tied the game in the 4th inning after the Mets had gone down early. But very encouraging to see Jeff McNeil do that. It was funny. I took my oldest son to the game, and we were at work. So it was like bring him to work day and then take the train to the ballpark. When we walked in, we go to sit down. We missed the first 2 batters of the game. Sometimes it's tough when you take the train. And I look up at the scoreboard and I see 1-0. And I'm like, what the hell happened? And then I go back and see that Jose Altuve swings at the first freaking pitch and parks one. So I did miss that in the game, but it was a fun game. It was a great win. It was a fun win. The negative just being you need to get more than 4 innings out of your starters. But great effort by Dednell Nunez, who continues to pitch really well coming out of the bullpen. Even Adam Ottavino was brought into a tricky spot. He comes into the 5th inning in a tie game. They went to him early, but it was a close game. So it wasn't Adam Ottavino just cleaning a mess up, and did a pretty good job getting through the inning. So it was a great effort by the bullpen. And it was a fun Friday night. And to get above 500, it's an awesome feeling. And I admit, when Jose Iglesias came on the field and started hamming it up to the camera by singing, "Oh my God," that's my version of it, I was laughing. I had a good time. What I ask the Met fan, and there are a few of you that I believe was pissed off at the time, like Negative Dan, who did email me. I guess I can read some of his emails. He wrote a lot of them. He was not he was not happy about the celebration. This is the latest one he wrote. I'll give you the one he wrote after the fact, but he did write it immediately. If you really want this LOL Met stigma to go away, throwing a public post-game concert where you mob the field and celebrate like you just won the World Series after a win in June, and then immediately losing the next 2 games, one where you had a 5-run lead, is probably not going to help your case. You just can't do those types of things, especially when you're playing a team with a multiple-time world champions just sitting there watching you do it in front of them, while you are a group that hasn't won a thing since you've been together. They continue to do this, whether it's like every time they have some success, they push it too far, basically spitting in the face of the baseball gods, which we all know they don't take kindly to. It's almost like they don't know how to handle winning. I'd love Tiki's opinion on this as a former athlete. I will certainly ask him. And as much as we've been praising all the leadership this year, where is somebody to stand up and say, "Hey guys, I know this is fun, but maybe let's just keep it in house instead of making it a public spectacle"? I don't care what anyone says. This team has not been the same since the Trumpets incident, another mid-year public spectacle against the upper echelon team. And that is just a fact. You cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and then act surprised when it comes back to bite you in the ass. I know it doesn't have a direct correlation, and you're just going to say all this doesn't matter and it's just overblown, nothing. But if you want to really change the culture here, start with changing that type of stuff. Well, Dan's right about my answer, which is it's nothing. Because look, do we think that the Houston Astros, who no doubt are champions? I mean, one thing I haven't done on the radio is count the Houston Astros out. Even when the Yankees were burying them early in the season. So I'm with you about respecting them and believing in them, and they are champions. So I have no disrespect towards who they are and what they're still going to accomplish. But do you really think that the Houston Astros won on Saturday and Sunday and were extra motivated because of Jose Iglesias lip syncing to his song and the Met players having fun with it after the game? Like, look around baseball in 2024. That's what players do. That's what teams do. I mean, every team that hits a home run has some kind of hat or some kind of sign or something that they have on in the dugout. And the Mets are basically using Jose Iglesias's music success. I guess it is. I think it's the number one Latin pop song in America, but they're basically using that as their rally cry. And while I had the pit in my stomach after the celebration, the pit in my stomach is more knowing that baseball's baseball. The Mets are going to cool off, and we're going to hear things like this to blame this is why they've been cooled off. And the truth is, no, this is not why they've been cooled off. They've been cooled off because their bullpen sucks, because Edwin Diaz is out for 5 more days. So, look, and here's where I will defend Dan. Dan's first email about this OMG celebration occurred before they lost the game. In fact, I'm gonna pull this up. Here we go. Jose trumpets plus a World Series celebration. It brings back memories. And he sent pictures of the Mets celebrating on Friday, along with Timmy Trumpet performing 2 years ago, and the Mets doing that pregame World Series celebration that they did in spring training back in 2021. World Series celebration concert after a midseason win. Where have I seen this one before? I wonder what happens next. I'm sure nothing bad. So while I disagree with Dan, I give him credit because he writes this Friday night, and what happens? They follow up with 2 straight losses, which are not equated to the celebration. But I do know that the non-Met fans, some Yankee fans, and some just Met haters are going to point to this and say, this is what happened. When the truth is, Reed Garrett happened. I mean, think about Saturday's game for a second. So the Mets jump all over Framber Valdez, which is great to see. Not great for my fantasy team, but great as a Met fan. They're jumping all over him, right? They're helped out by Jose Altuve not being able to turn a double play. Harrison Bader gets a big RBI hit. Brandon Nimmo, who was very hot over the last couple of days, really more than that, RBI double. Pete Alonso with that big 2-run single. And they build a big, comfortable 6-1 lead. They blow that lead, and let's go over the reasons why. And no, I don't think it's because of OMG. They blow the lead because Tyler McGill shouldn't be in this rotation anymore, and luckily is not, as he's been optioned to AAA. So they blow this lead because Tyler McGill is giving up ahead of the count to Jeremy Pena a 2-run double. They blow this lead because he's given up an RBI single to Jonathan Singleton. They blow this lead because Tyler McGill, even though he pitches into the 6th inning, takes a 6-1 lead and makes it 6-4. They blow this lead because the offense, after they score all those runs in the 2nd and 3rd inning, do nothing against the Astro bullpen. They can't take advantage of Taylor Scott and Seth Martinez and Ryan Presley. And they blow this game because Reed Garrett can't throw a strike. And when he had the opportunity to get Alex Bregman out, he gives up a huge, huge base hit. They blow this game because Jay Diekman walks back-to-back guys. They blow this game because they do not have Dednell Nunez available because of Friday. They blow this game because they don't have Edwin Diaz. And so you take a bullpen that's probably average with Edwin Diaz, and when you need to get as many outs again as they needed to get, because Tyler McGill was only able to get the 16 of 27, which means you still need to find a way to get 11 more freaking outs. And somehow you got 5 of them from the immortal Ty Adcock. That's why they blew the game. You can give me the baseball gods all you want and give me the Edwin Diaz comparison and don't laugh at the baseball gods. Their bullpen blew this game. Their starting pitching not going deep into games blew this game. The same reason why the Mets are what they are, which right now is an average baseball team. They had a hot streak to get back to averageness. They're on pace to go 80 and 82, which, by the way, is what a lot of people thought they were. I think they're a little bit better. Okay. And the reason is because their starting pitching doesn't go deep into games. And they've got a bullpen that's shorthanded right now. And even when not shorthanded, ain't good enough. But that was frustrating because Reed Garrett, who had kind of recovered his bad season by pitching as well as he's pitched over the last month, had a terrible May like the rest of the team, pitched really well in June. He comes in against the immortal, Trey Cabbage, and he can't throw a strike. And he walks Jose Altuve. And he throws a wild pitch that makes it a 1-run game. And then, despite all of that, he's ahead of Alex Bregman. He's got a chance to get through the inning. And Alex Bregman, reminding you the professional he is, he's kind of recovered his bad season, got off to a horrible start. His numbers are a little bit better, still not fully there, comes through with the 2-run single. And look, the Met offense, which it's tough to ever kill the Met offense considering what they've done lately. But the reality is, they didn't do much late in this game. That's the bottom line. Like, their last base hit was a double by Jose Iglesias in the 5th inning. That was it. Actually, they got a base hit by Lindor, 9-pitch at-bat in the 8th inning. Outside of that, they didn't have a lot of opportunities. They couldn't hit Ryan Presley. They had no chance against Josh Hader. And obviously, to let the game slip away late when Danny Young gives up those 2 runs in the ninth inning. They're down by a run going into the ninth. Hader still pitches a 1-2-3 inning, but Danny Young gives up those 2 runs. And look, I think the bottom line is with Danny Young, who's already been optioned at AAA, the bloom is off the rose, as they say. He got off to a pretty good start when they had first called him up. I think the reality is this with Danny Young. He is another one of those guys who's on that train, up and down from AAA. And the Mets have used that train quite a bit. So Saturday was a very disappointing loss. Look, when you have a 6-1 lead, you expect to win. But that is on Tyler McGill. That is on this bullpen. And that's on the offense doing nothing after a very quick start against Framber Valdez. As far as Sunday's game is concerned, Sunday was a very weird game. The MVP of this game was my wife. I give her a lot of credit. I DVR'd this game. I'm in Vermont, by the way. That's where I am right now. That's why maybe the microphone quality isn't as good. That's why the background, if you're watching on YouTube, is a little odd. I'm up in the state of Vermont, great state. And we've had a lot of fun the last couple of days. And we were at the beach today. And the way I maintain having a life and being a decent father and a decent wife is I'll DVR the games. I'll watch them later. I'll still watch every pitch, but I'll do it around my family time. So I start this game at, I'm going to say like 6 o'clock at night. We have dinner. We're good. We're feeling nice. I start this game. Jets watching it with me. And obviously, if you watch Sunday's game, you see the Mets go down 4-0. Okay. Doesn't feel very good. Luis Severino had this kind of odd performance because he gives up the home run to John Singleton. He gives up a couple of runs, but he was so efficient. He was able to do the thing that no one else does, which is go deep into the game. So you're obviously watching the game. I'm watching the game. I'm way behind. I watch it on DVR. And then all of a sudden the rains come. And my DVR does not extend to that level, which is kind of weird. Usually it does. It did not today. So I'm like, crap, what the hell do I do? And as you know, the game gets delayed going into the bottom of the ninth inning of a 4-4 game. So the recording is done. And I looked to my wife and said, look, I need a favor. I said, she's sleeping right now, by the way. I was just like looking over because I'm talking about her. She's passed out. So I said, look, I'm going to load the MLB app. I'm going to leave. You may see the score. I need you to pull the video up and just pull it all the way to the beginning. I'll get it to the ninth inning, but pull it all the way to the beginning because I don't know if the game's still going on. I don't know if the game ever started. For my money, there's a rain delay. How the hell do I know if they're going to play the game? I'm in Vermont. I don't even know the weather in New York. So my wife did a great job of like pulling the video all the way back to the beginning of the game. Now I'm able to skip and skip and skip. And my God, a 2.5-hour rain delay. You know what's cool about DVR, even when it doesn't extend and you've got to go to the MLB app and you need your wife to do you favors? What's very cool is that my 2.5-hour rain delay was 7 minutes. The process of her loading the game and then me finding it after she rewinded took 7.5 minutes. So I finally get to the bottom of the ninth inning of this game, and I see Gary Cohen say, 2-hour and 47-minute rain delay. Holy crap. So I don't know what you guys did. I mean, it's tough, man. Like if you're at that game, I don't know how you stay. There was a time in my life in which I'd be able to stay when me and my dad used to go to all these games. Sunday afternoon, if I'm taking my family, after about 20 minutes, we're probably gone. So for those that stayed, good for you. For those that forgot there was even a game and had no idea what happened, maybe I'm the one telling you what happened. Basically, the Mets got kicked in the balls. That's exactly what happened. We get to the bottom of the ninth inning. They do absolutely nothing. Not a surprise. But I am sitting there not knowing how close to live I am because I'm starting to do the math like, 2.5 hours. The game started at 1:40. The game was probably already 2. I have no idea. Maybe I'm close to live. But they go to Adam Ottavino to start the 10th inning. And Adam Ottavino promptly gives up that little fly ball to center field that turns into a sacrifice fly. And then very quickly gives up the base hit to Chase McCormick, who's only in the game because Jose Altuve got ejected on a huge ground out in the 7th inning, in which I thought the ball hit his foot too. I'm with Jose Altuve. But let's not forget, not only is Altuve ejected, but in that moment of the game in the 7th inning, the Astros have a real opportunity. They had second and third, 2 out, seventh inning, up by 2 runs. They got a chance to break that game open, especially with Altuve at the plate. So McCormick gets the RBI single. The Mets go down by a run. Where they lose this freaking game, which really bothers me and haunts me about this particular loss, after the Mets fight back from being down 4-0 and tie the game. Brandon Nimmo goes left center for the 2-run home run. Mark Vientos with a big 2-run double. They show fight. So despite spitting at the baseball gods with the OMG performance, the Mets show fight on Sunday by coming back. Granted, it was a bullpen day for the Astros. I understand they should have pounded Sean Dobin. They didn't. It is what it is. They come back against Brian Abreu. They come back against Seth Martinez, 2 of their better relievers. Call me naive. The Mets showed fight. When Brandon Nimmo immediately strokes an RBI double to tie that game up because of the ghost runner, you have to win the game in the bottom of the 10th inning. Have to. And it doesn't matter who's left in the bullpen. You have a runner on second, nobody out. The game is tied. You've got J.D. Martinez at the plate. At the least, you got to move him to third base. J.D. Martinez has had a very rough couple of days. Can't kill him. He's one of the veteran leaders of this team. He's had a lot of big hits this season. I think he's 0 for his last 10, but not making contact with a runner on second and nobody out in a tie game is a huge failure. They walk Pete Alonso, and then Harrison Bader grounds out. Tough to kill him. He's had a lot of big hits all season. And then Mark Vientos grounds out, and I knew the way you knew this freaking game was over. The Mets have been an abomination in extra innings. Not only do they lose every extra inning game they play, they get their asses kicked. Like, how many times this season have they lost an extra inning game by 5 or more runs? It's freaking insane. But the bottom of the 10th inning, after Nimmo gets that RBI double, that's the game. That's the freaking game. J.D. Martinez not being able to advance the runner, Bader grounding out, Vientos growling at. I mean, you may as well put the curtains out. And obviously, when you take into account who's available in this bullpen, you know Reed Garrett's not available. Dednell Nunez is likely not available. Jake Diekman's likely not available. So your options are basically Tyler J, Ty Adcock, if he is available, because remember, he pitched a lot on Saturday, or the new guy, Matt Festa. And Gary Cohen. I mean, how many freaking Seinfeld festival references do we need? I mean, maybe I would have found it funny if Matt Festa wasn't, allowing 3 consecutive hits and basically putting us out of our freaking misery, including Trey Cabbage hitting that 2-run double that's still rolling in right center field. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. But as much as I want to kill Matt Festa, as much as I want to complain about him, the truth is, it's the opportunity that they had in front of them in the bottom of the 10th inning. That's why they lost this game. And I get it. It's tough to kill the offense when they're scoring as many runs as they're scoring. I mean, they're scoring a ton of runs every night, 5, 6 runs. Look at the last 2 games they lost to Houston. They scored 5 runs and they scored 6 runs. That should be enough. And I acknowledge that. But when I think to this loss, it's runner on second, nobody out, bottom of the 10th inning. You have to win this game. So here's the bottom line with all this. This sucked. This was a very, very disappointing close to this homestand. You win 2 games against the Yankees. You win the opener on Friday. To lose these back-to-back games absolutely sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say, oh, well, it happened. No, look, it happens, but this still sucked. You come back from 4-0 down. You tie a game at 4. You've got a great opportunity in the bottom of the 10th inning. You lose. That's a bad loss. You have a 6-1 lead on Saturday. Your bullpen implodes. Your starter can't hold the lead as well. I put that on Tyler McGill as well. That's a bad loss. So it's not just losing 2 out of 3 to the Astros. Because I think if you would have told me that 3 days ago, I would have said, yeah, I mean, the Astros are as hot as we are. Like, think about it. The Astros and the Mets are the 2 hottest teams in baseball. So it's not that losing 2 out of 3 to Houston is bad. It's the way they lost 2 out of 3. It's the way they lost Saturday, the way they lost Sunday. And yes, the idea that now them partying on Friday will be used as the thing that derailed their season. But I have good news. I have good news. The New York Mets are now getting the opportunity to play the Washington Nationals 7 out of the next 11 times. There is no excuse. James Wood is coming up for Washington. Good for him. There is no excuse. The Nationals have played like crap. They have been kind of coming back to what they probably should be. This is an opportunity now for the Mets to right themselves. What do they got to do in Washington? To me, it's 3 out of 4. That's my expectation. What do they got to do in Pittsburgh? My expectation is a split. Believe it or not, I'm okay. Look, winning on the road is tough. If you can go 3 of 4 and a split, preferably the 3 of 4 against Washington, the split against Pittsburgh, think about what you're talking about. You're talking about a 5-3 road trip. And I'm good with that. I am good with a 5-3 road trip. So I'm not telling you they got to go out and go 7-1. I'd like that. We'd all like that. But now the Mets have a chance to respond to this 2-game losing streak, respond to this idea that partying on Friday night is going to somehow derail their season, and just get this season into kind of, we're flying at 30,000 feet. We're no longer crashing and then flying up and like it's no longer a roller coaster. Level the season off, because that's where we are as we start the month of July. They got off to a bad start to start the year. They got very hot to get above 500. Then they were bad for over a month to drop to 11 games under 500. And they've had this great run to get them to where they are, which is basically at 500. Now they're a game under 500. And so I look at the month of July, and I said this on the air going into the stretch of games, this 17-game stretch that really started with the Houston series. I said, go 10-7. That's all I'm looking for. Go 10-7. I said that on the Fan. I'll say it here on the Rico. 10-7. Now, so far, they're 1-2, which means they've got to go 9-5 over the next 14 games. But look who they're facing: Washington, Pittsburgh, Washington, Colorado. This is their moment now to just calm us all down. And they don't have to go win 9 in a row. It'd be great if they did, but just kind of have this season back on track. And the opportunity's right in front of them. Now, David Peterson is going to start the opener of this series against Mackenzie Gore, so they'll face a lefty. I guess Sean Manaea is scheduled to pitch the second game, the Tuesday game, against another lefty, Hers. And then at some point, Christian Scott will enter this rotation. I'm assuming it's going to be on Wednesday against another lefty. They're actually facing 3 straight lefties in this series. Isn't that crazy? So Jose Iglesias time, baby. Because that's how he has been deployed by Carlos Mendoza as the right-hand hitting second base platoon with Jeff McNeil. So 3 straight lefties to start this Washington series. We will see Christian Scott re-enter this rotation as the Mets are just trying to find ways now to give themselves extra arms until Edwin Diaz comes back. Edwin Diaz comes back on Saturday. They have to play this entire 4-game series in Washington, shorter reliever. Though, think about it, they can make another move. Like Matt Festa should go down. You get yourself another reliever for a couple of days, and then that reliever goes down, and Christian Scott enters the rotation on Tuesday or Wednesday. MLB has Sean Manaea listed for Tuesday. I haven't seen if Carlos Mendoza officially announced that, but Christian Scott will enter the rotation later this week against Washington. But what we need to see now is get this season back on okay. I'm looking for the right word. Like, they were bad, they were good. They were bad, they were good. I'm looking for just a nice, decent, solid stretch of baseball where they don't have to win every freaking game, but let's stop with this awesome collapse. Anyhow, let me get to some of your emails, the ricob@gmail.com. Jordan writes, Miguel to the pen. And this was an email written on Saturday. As I sit here on my honeymoon across the Atlantic watching the Mets play the Astros, I have a thought that McGill should be moved to the pen in a Hauser-like role. The starters are not getting any depth, and Hauser and Nunez can't be used every day to fill innings. Having another guy eat outs could help. Plus, McGill seems to struggle a little bit once facing the order the second time around. We need to find a way to supplant these starters until Senga gets back, or we start getting more innings from the starters. Christian Scott or Jose Budo can easily take the starting spot until Senga's back. Jordan, I agree with you. This was an idea I suggested a few days ago of get McGill out of the rotation. Let's see him out of the bullpen. Give yourself that second long man arm and reinsert Christian Scott and Jose Budo. Now, they're not doing that. What they're doing is Tyler McGill is back in AAA first time this season. Because think about it, he made the team out of spring training. He was hurt. He had rehab starts. This is the first time he's going back to AAA, which I think is a huge setback for him. But honestly, what is he? You know, is he a starting pitcher in this rotation? Not really. Not when this team is healthy. So what I would do is, and I agree with Jordan, is when he goes to AAA, I'd make him a reliever. But the Mets actually have a lot of starting pitching depth. And if Kodai Senga is going to get through his rehab, which is scheduled to start next week, fingers crossed he does, and you remember Jose Budo, and you remember Christian Scott who's coming back, and even Joey Lucchesi, they have a lot of arms. I think this is the time to figure out if Tyler McGill's a reliever. Plus, the Mets need relievers. So when he goes to AAA, I would use him out of the bullpen and then probably come back and help this team. But you are right. I think that having another innings eater in your bullpen who can get you 2 or 3 innings is certainly a very valuable thing. No doubt about it. Michael writes, fellas, the pitching staff needs an utter overhaul. Quintana, McGill, Minaya, and Peterson are generally unable to go past the 5th, straining an already short and weak bullpen. Michael writes, send McGill down for a fresh arm. Well, they already did that. Jose Budo should take McGill's next start. Christian Scott should start in D.C. to make a 6-man rotation. Can the Blue Jays call the Blue Jays up and offer to take Chris Bassett or Jose Barrios and their contracts and move David Peterson to the pen? Also, at what point does Jeremy Hefner feel the heat? He's been the pitching coach under 3 managers for 5 seasons, one of which with a winning record. The team was 6th in walks allowed last year and 3rd this year. Every time they blow a lead, it's the walks. So, a couple of things. And I'm certainly not the president of the Jeremy Hefner fan club. But when you look at the arms on this team, who's underachieving? Or are they just not good enough? Now, you could tell me Jose Quintana is underachieving. I mean, we all expected more from him. But Tyler McGill and David Peterson, they are what they are. Sean Manaea has actually had a reasonably good season. Deadnil Nunez has had a career year. Reed Garrett's had a career year. So it's tough to blame Jeremy Hefner when you look at who these arms are, because the only way for me to judge, obviously we're not there, we're not seeing what he does, is looking at underperformance and overperformance. And the Mets do not have a lot of great pitchers. They don't. So you look at guys and say, well, who's really, really underperforming and who's overperforming? So I wouldn't put it completely on Jeremy Hefner, but you are right. The walks are killing this team. And it's been going on all season long. One thing they have cleaned up defensively is throwing guys out at second base. Luis Torrens had 2 of them in Sunday's game, which was great to see. You can email the pod anytime, thericob@gmail.com. Here's something exciting we're going to try. So I'm in Vermont right now. I'm taking next week off, so you will not hear me with Tiki, but you will hear Tiki. You'll hear Sean Morash. You'll hear Loogie, at least for most of the week. I know the 4th of July is coming up. I'm off for the week. And me and my family are doing many mini trips. One of those trips includes Washington, D.C. Yeah. So I will be at the Tuesday game at Nationals Park between the Mets and the Nationals. And I was telling Pete about this. We've done drive home podcasts, but on Tuesday night, we will do the first ever walk home podcast because I will be staying at a hotel within walking distance of Nationals Park. And so while people may think I'm crazy, and that's okay, when the game ends, while holding my son's hand, I am going to take my phone out and we will live YouTube a recap of the game and a podcast while walking back to the hotel. That could either be a complete utter disaster or maybe it's something new. I have no idea. So that's something to look forward to on the Rico coming up on Tuesday after the game against the Washington Nationals. So we'll give you that on Tuesday, a full series recap on Thursday at some point on the 4th of July. I can't guarantee it's going to be too early because, Pete and I are shooting off fireworks. We're going to have a damn good time. But we will, as we always say, after a series is over, at some point, you'll get the full podcast. But we do appreciate you listening and downloading and bearing with me as I sit here in Vermont on my laptop on vacation. But thank you very much for listening and downloading another edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.